What if the most dangerous threat to your peace isn't a sudden explosion, but a slow, calculated change in the atmosphere of your own home? Behavioral observations suggest that most men don't lose their relationships in a single night of infidelity. They lose them over months of ignored routine shifts and behavioral glitches that they were too good to acknowledge. You see the phone turn face down, you notice the work meetings extending into the late night, and you feel the coldness in the way she looks at you, but you tell yourself you're just being insecure. Psychological patterns show that your gut instinct is actually your subconscious intelligence picking up on a pattern break. She is transitioning, and her daily routine is the map of her exit. If you don't learn to read the micro movements of her day, you are essentially financing your own replacement, while she uses your security to build a bridge to another man. In this exhaustive analysis, we are going to expose the quiet deception and show you exactly how a woman signals her departure through the daily grind, long before she ever says the words, "It's over." We are going to look at why her new habits are actually new allegiances and how the sovereign man identifies the rot in the structure before the roof cools in. I'm not here to argue with the world about what a real man is. I'm here for the men who are quietly trying to get their lives together, the ones rebuilding, the ones learning discipline the hard way, the ones who got knocked down and decided to stand back up. If you're working on yourself, even if nobody sees it, this channel is for you. Subscribe if you're serious about growth. Leave a comment so I know you're here. No noise, no hype, just men doing the work. The first major routine shift we must examine is the digital sequestration. Behavioral observations suggest that for a woman who is being faithful, her phone is a tool, but for a woman who is betraying the relationship, her phone becomes an extension of her nervous system. You will notice a sudden change in her screen time habits. If she used to leave her phone on the kitchen counter while she showered, but now it goes into the bathroom with her and she locks the door, that is a routine rupture. This is not about privacy, it is about evidence management. Psychological patterns show that the secret life requires constant maintenance and real-time coordination. This creates a state of digital hypervigilance. She isn't just checking Instagram, she is monitoring the gateway to her other world, ensuring that notifications are silenced and logs are cleared. You are the victim of privacy weaponization when she uses the right to privacy as a shield to hide the fact of secrecy. When the device she uses to communicate with the world becomes a black box that is off limits to the man she sleeps next to, the routine has already been infiltrated. We also need to look at the physical rebranding. Behavioral patterns show that when a woman has been in a long-term relationship, her grooming habits usually reach a maintenance level, a comfortable baseline. But the moment an external interest enters the picture, there is a sudden, drastic investment in appearance. If she has suddenly started wearing expensive perfume to the grocery store, or if she has updated her wardrobe with items that don't fit the routine you've shared for years, your gut is reacting to a biological signal. Psychological observations suggest that she is decorating the shop window for a new customer. This is mating effort reactivation. When a woman who hasn't worn makeup for a Tuesday morning in 3 years suddenly spends 40 minutes in front of the mirror before running errands, she is transmitting to a different receiver. You are the victim of visual deception when you think she is getting pretty for you, while she is actually auditioning for the excitement of a new gaze. Expanding on this, we must analyze the sudden passion for solitude. Behavioral observations show that a woman who is emotionally connected to her partner seeks shared time as a routine, but a woman who is checking out will suddenly find excuses to be alone. She develops new hobbies that don't have room for two. She starts taking long walks without her phone, or so she says, or spends hours in the garden or the home office with the door shut. Psychological patterns suggest that she is creating a mental sanctuary where she can cultivate her new connection without the interference of your presence. This is geographic distancing. She is physically present in your house, but she is vibrationally absent. You are the victim of isolation within intimacy when your routine becomes a solo act even though you're living with a partner. Let's look at the path of Julian. Julian was a man who believed that trust meant never asking questions. He was a provider who worked 50 hours a week to ensure his wife Maya had everything she needed. When Maya suddenly started going to yoga classes 4 nights a week, classes she had never expressed interest in before, Julian stayed home and watched the kids, thinking he was being a supportive husband. He noticed that Maya would come home glowing, with a high energy that she never shared with him. She started taking selfies in her yoga gear that she never posted on her public profile. Julian didn't want to be the insecure husband, so he pushed his feelings down. He told himself that she was just working on her mental health. Julian is the loser in our story because he accepted routine anomalies as personal growth. Because he didn't want to start a conflict, he allowed Maya to build a parallel life right in front of his eyes. While Julian was providing the security and stability, Maya was using her new routine to facilitate a deep emotional and physical affair. Julian lost because he failed to realize that a change in a woman's schedule is often a change in her heart's direction. By the time Julian found the evidence, a hidden yoga bag that contained gifts from another man, Maya had already debonded from him completely. He was left with the mortgage, the grief, and the realization that he had subsidized his own replacement. He was a victim of the normalcy bias, thinking that things were fine because the kitchen was clean, even though the vows were being scrapped in the parking lot of a yoga studio. The third routine change is the verbal devaluation of the shared history. Behavioral observations suggest that when a woman is planning an exit or hiding an affair, she will start to nitpick the daily routine you both share. Suddenly, the way you eat, the way you breathe, or the routine of your Friday movie nights becomes annoying or suffocating to her. This is conflict engineering. Psychological patterns show that she is creating distance to justify her internal guilt. If she can make you the bad guy in her mind, her betrayal becomes self-defense. She will tell her new man that you are controlling or emotionally absent, and she will use routine disagreements as proof of your incompatibility. You are the victim of character sabotage when she turns your consistency into a prison so she can feel right about her escape. Furthermore, we must analyze the sudden gap in the timeline. Behavioral patterns show that a person's day usually has a flow, a predictable sequence. When infidelity enters the room, that flow develops temporal holes. Suddenly, there are 30-minute gaps between her leaving work and arriving home that she can't quite explain. Or she has errands that take 3 times longer than they should. She starts forgetting to check in, or her battery dies at the exact moment she is supposed to be commuting. Psychological observations suggest that these gaps are where the affair breathes. This is temporal theft. She is stealing time from the union to invest in the saboteur. You are the victim of chronological gaslighting when she tells you that traffic was bad every single day for 6 months, but she never looks fatigued when she walks through the door. She looks invigorated. Expanding further into the morning routine shift and the loss of synchrony. Consider the loss of biological synchrony. Behavioral observations suggest that healthy couples naturally mirror each other's rhythms. They eat at the same time, they go to bed at the same time, and they wake up in the same energy. When a woman is redirecting her loyalty, this synchrony breaks. She starts staying up 2 hours later than you to watch TV, which is actually private chatting time. She starts waking up earlier to meditate, which is actually private calling time. Psychological patterns show that she is carving out a life that you are excluded from. This is circadian alienation. You are the victim of the roommate transition when your routine no longer intersects with hers, even though you share the same square footage. The reality is that patterns don't lie, even when words are scripted. A man who pays attention to the rhythm of his life will always hear when the beat changes. Behavioral observations suggest that infidelity is a disruption of harmony. If the music in your house sounds off, it's not because you've lost your ear, it's because someone else is conducting the orchestra of her day. You owe it to your sovereignty to look at the clock and the calendar and realize that coincidence is a rare bird in a long-term relationship. The routine is the invisible thread that holds a covenant together. When she starts cutting the thread by changing the rules of the day, she is preparing for the cut of the contract. Don't be the man who adjusts to the new normal until the new normal includes another man in your chair. You must become the analyst of the ordinary. It is in the ordinary changes, the new scent, the new schedule, the new silence, that the truth is hidden in plain sight. I don't make content for the average mindset. I make it for the man who holds himself accountable, the one who can say no to distractions, not because someone told him to, but because he decided to. If you're not ready to work on yourself, this won't resonate. But if you are, you belong here. Most people watch and move on. If you're different, subscribe and comment. Show yourself you're serious. The fourth major routine change is the new social circle ghosting. Behavioral observations suggest that when a woman begins an affair, she often develops a secret society of new friends that you never meet and rarely hear about until they are suddenly essential to her schedule. She will mention names like Sarah from the gym or the girls from the office, but she never provides faces, photos, or invitations for you to join. Psychological patterns show that she is building a buffer zone between you and her alternative reality. If she is suddenly going out every Thursday night with people you've never shaken hands with, she is segmenting her life. This is social compartmentalization. She is keeping the victim, you, away from the witnesses, the new people who likely know about the other man. When her routine involves a world where you don't exist, she is practicing for a life where you don't exist. You are the victim of exclusionary engineering when you are locked out of her new social routine because your presence would break the spell of her second life. She needs a group of enablers who only see the new version of her, far away from the man who knows her history. We also have to look at the sexual withdrawal and the pity payout. Behavioral patterns show that a change in routine in the bedroom is the most honest indicator of where her emotional bonding is actually located. If she has gone from active interest to clinical duty, or if the frequency of your intimacy has dropped off a cliff without a medical or major life stress, the routine has been infiltrated. Psychological observations suggest that her body cannot easily synthesize intimacy with two different men simultaneously. She will either starve you of touch because it feels like cheating on the new guy, or she will give you a pity payout, a routine act of sex that lacks soul and eye contact just to keep you quiet and stop you from sniffing around for the truth. This is strategic sexual rationing. You are the victim of transactional intimacy when she uses her body as a bribe to prevent you from questioning her new schedule. Let's look at the path of Dominic. Dominic was a man who understood behavioral baseline analysis. He didn't focus on her words, he focused on her feet, where they were going and when. When his girlfriend, Chloe, suddenly started volunteering for the early shift at her hospitality job, despite being a night owl for the 3 years they lived together, Dominic didn't accuse her. He didn't snoop through her drawers. He simply observed. He noticed that her new routine required her to leave 45 minutes before her shift actually started, and she would spend 10 minutes sitting in her car in the driveway, texting furiously. One morning, Dominic decided to test the routine. He told her his car wouldn't start and he needed her to drop him off on her way. Chloe's short panic response, the shortness of breath, the aggressive defense of her space, and the irrational anger was the only evidence Dominic needed. He realized that her new routine was a stage and he was an unwanted audience member. Dominic is the winner in our story because he prioritized the truth over the comfort of a lie. He didn't wait for a confession that would never come. He realized that a routine that requires deception is a routine that has excluded the partner. Dominic didn't argue, beg, or cry. He waited for her to come home that evening, had her bags neatly packed by the door, and said, "Your new routine has no room for my trust. Therefore, my life has no room for your presence." He ended the relationship with surgical precision. Dominic won because he realized that a man's peace is worth more than a woman's mask. Today, Dominic is leading his life with power because he proved to himself that he is a man of standard. He was a master of pattern recognition, ensuring that he never financed a play that he wasn't the lead actor in. The fifth routine change is the hypercritical pivot. Behavioral observations suggest that as a woman spends more mental energy on a new man, her tolerance for her current man disappears. Psychological patterns show that she will start picking fights over routine tasks that were never an issue before. Suddenly, the way you load the dishwasher, the sound of your voice, or your Friday night tradition becomes smothering or boring. This is emotional exit mapping. She is debonding from you by focusing on your flaws to make her infidelity feel like self-liberation. If you are the problem, then her betrayal is just her finding herself. You are the victim of microaggression conditioning when she uses the daily routine as a battlefield to make you feel unworthy of the loyalty she is already giving away to someone else. Expanding this further, we must analyze the sudden obsession with personal space. Behavioral observations suggest that in a healthy routine, the home is a shared environment. But when betrayal is present, she begins to partition the home. She might spend 3 hours organizing the closet or stay in the guest room to read, but if you walk in, she immediately closes the laptop or flips the phone. This is micro-territorialism. She is creating gaps in the routine where she can exist as the single woman she is pretending to be for her other source. Psychological observations suggest that her vocabulary is a DNA sample of her new environment. You are the victim of identity displacement when the woman talking to you sounds like a stranger who has been programmed by another user. The sixth and final routine change is the loss of the anchor moments. Behavioral observations suggest that the beginning and the end of the day are the sacred hours of a loyal union. These are the routine check-ins that maintain the connection. When she stops greeting you with affection when you get home, or when she starts going to bed at a completely different time than you to avoid conversation, the contract is effectively void. Psychological observations suggest that her first thought in the morning and her last thought at night are now reserved for the dopamine source, the other man. This is spiritual displacement. You are the legal resident of the house, but he is the emotional resident of her day. You are the victim of ritualistic erasure when the small moments that defined your union have been deleted and replaced by cold distance. The reality is that loyalty is quiet and consistent, but betrayal is loud in its deviations. A woman who values the fortress will guard the routine. A woman who is building a new kingdom will let the old one crumble. Behavioral patterns show that integrity doesn't need excuses for why the schedule changed. If her day has become a maze of late nights, new hobbies, and hidden friends, you aren't losing your mind, you're losing your partner. You are the captain of your own life. If the navigator is changing the course without consulting you, she isn't lost, she is leading you into an ambush. You have to understand that the routine is the pulse of the relationship. When the pulse becomes irregular, a heart is failing. You cannot fix the pulse by ignoring the patient. You have to be the man who has the fortitude to look at the data and say, this doesn't add up. Behavioral observations show that the fixer tries to explain away the anomalies, while the sovereign man uses the anomalies to exit the trap. Don't be the man who is surprised by the ending when the chapters have been changing right in front of you for months. I have a smart question for the men who have the sovereign sight to finish this session on the routine of deception. If you were a watchmaker and you noticed that one gear was turning the wrong way and slowing down the entire movement, would you keep polishing the case and hope it fixes itself? Or would you open the back and remove the defective part before the watch stops ticking entirely? You are the watchmaker. Her routine is the gear. Stop polishing the surface of a broken mechanism. Drop a comment below and tell the Brotherhood what was the one shift in her daily routine that your gut told you was wrong even when your head tried to make excuses for her? How did you reclaim your frame once the pattern became too obvious to ignore? Share your detection wisdom. Your story might be the compass a brother needs to find his way out of a forest of lies. Let's build the Council of Sovereign Men together. If you made it all the way to the end, I genuinely appreciate you. That tells me you're not just watching, you're thinking, you're reflecting, you're working on yourself. And you're not alone in that anymore. There's a community here of men choosing growth over excuses. If this message gave you something valuable, subscribe and be part of it. Leave a comment, I read them, and your voice matters here. Keep doing the work. I'll see you in the next one.